Today's the 29th of May 2016, and this video is about how you are actually a better reader than you think you are. So this video is kind of about how to handle self-doubt. So if you do a reading and then later you wish you had said something else or something different, or you think maybe I should have said that, right? Or wish you'd made a particular point. Now that it's later, you think back and wish you had said something, then this video is for you. Because what I want to do is give you the other side of the story, right? So you're going to see that you're actually a better reader than you give yourself credit for. And I go over some ideas on how to get better at doing readings for other people as well as for yourself. So I find with these videos, it's easier to talk about situations that can happen rather than speak about a theory, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose a past, present, and future spread that we'll talk about later. So I'm imagining that in the past, we're dealing with the reversed tower. In the present, we've got the King of Swords. And in the future, we've got the Eight of Batons, right? The arrows reaching their goal. So if we look at the tower reversed, the King of Swords, and the Eight of Batons, we can see immediately that the present, the King of Swords, is better than the upset and the disruption shown by the tower reverse. So things maybe weren't so good in the past, but they've got better, and you're now more in control, you're more in charge. And the future looks brighter than the present, because the Eight of Batons is a good card. It's optimism, it's confidence, and that is quite a nice development out of the situation shown by the King of Swords. So as an example, let's say you're going on a trip and you have to get to the airport, but the taxi is late and there's an awful lot of traffic in the streets, so you're late getting to the airport, but the flight leaves on time, which is good, and you reach your destination and your bags are first off the trolley and you get to your hotel on time without any kind of delay. So that's a kind of sequence, right? It's awkward in the beginning, but it smooths out as time goes by and there's a good outcome, a positive outcome. So when you know the sequence, the nature of the sequence, good, bad, smooth sailing or not, you can answer questions. So we know the sequence with the person and we can describe what's going to be, what has been, what is, and what's going to be coming up. But in getting to the airport, we don't need to give details. So we can say, the taxi is going to be late and there's going to be traffic, but you get there in time. We don't need to give in advance or give information about the license plate number of the taxi cab. And we don't need to tell them the driver's name, right? It could be quite impressive if you can do that kind of stuff, but it's not that relevant, and it really doesn't help the questioner to know that the taxi driver's name is going to be Jim or Bill, right? So what? So that kind of reading, one with details like that might be what you expect you should be doing, right? Giving names and dates and places and times and knowing all sorts of details about the life of the questioner. But really, is it that helpful to the questioner? They may be impressed with your mind-reading ability or your psychic ability, but you're only just telling them things they already know, right? If you know that their brother's name is Tom or whatever it happens to be. So if you can do that mind-reading trick or mind-reading skill, it can be impressive, but really, is it that helpful? Whereas I think a tarot reading ought to be helping the questioner to live better and more fully in the future or when they leave the room. And how much better can you live your life knowing the kind of things that psychics tell you? It's impressive when they get it right, although people will often forget what the psychic got wrong and only remember what seems to be right. Okay, so with this in mind, how many doubts, when you're doubting your reading and doubting your ability, how many doubts do you have Or how many criticisms do you have about your reading that it's really stuff that doesn't matter or that's not that relevant to the questioner? Because maybe it's more about you not being the all-knowing psychic that you think you ought to be. So it's your ego that's getting in the way. But really, when it comes to tarot readings, you're the reader is the messenger, and it's a message that's important and not so much your ego. Because if you've helped the questioner to handle their life even a little bit better, that's a good reading. Maybe you reassured them about something, or you comforted them, and that's valuable as well. Or you encouraged them, and maybe other people don't, but you did, and they go off and their success because of the encouragement you gave them. Or maybe you indicated to them in some way that they can have more confidence, or they can have confidence in themselves. Or you reminded them that they have actually done quite well in some important way. Because people can be very down on themselves, and they'll remember only what didn't work and completely disregard and forget about the successes they have had or the good work that they have done. And they'll discount that ability or those abilities that they've shown they've got. And if a reading can get people back on track with themselves, I think that's a good reading. And it can make a huge difference in the life of the questioner. So you may not know that their aunt's name is, I don't know, Betty, but they can leave the reading encouraged and optimistic and confident that they will be able to make an improvement in their life. And that will affect the people that they know as well. So tarot cards point to situations, and they point out aspects of human behavior. And if the reader can focus on identifying these situations and conditions and suggest how they might be dealt with, I think that's a good reading as well. So cards might show that the person is unable to decide about something. So maybe you got the Two of Swords reversed, or the Lovers is reversed, so they can't make up their mind about what to do. Or maybe the card would show the questioner is distracted. Right? You get the Fool reverse, so the little dog it's barking and yelping, and you're looking down at it instead of focusing on where you ought to be going. So you're distracted. Or maybe you get the Four of Cups, and this thing up here is annoying you, or it's taking your attention when it should be on what you're actually dealing with. Whatever the situation is, cards point to situations. So you turn, let's say, the Fool or the Four of Cups or the Two of Swords. The reader can point this out. So this card, for instance, shows that you're struggling to make up your mind about this question. Right? That's what the reading does. It tells you the situation. But I think the real value of a reading comes with the next step. And that's when the reader makes suggestions on how to deal with the situation. So a card or a combination of cards might show that somebody needs to get organized, right? And that's step one. But the next step can be that the reader can suggest how to get organized. So they might suggest a SWOT analysis. And SWOT is SWOT. You figure out what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, what are your opportunities, and what are the threats. And by making a list in those different areas, you're going to be better able to get organized, right? So there are other methods of sorting things out or setting them in place. And a different reader could give you other information about what to do, or that could make suggestions that would be suitable for this particular questioner. So maybe the suggestion is, first and most important, is declutter your life. And there are lots of books and websites about how to declutter. Or maybe you suggest you've got certain things you want to do. It's important to prioritize and become aware of what's important, or what you choose to be is important for you to do, and then do it first, instead of doing the unimportant things first. And then you haven't got the time or the energy to do the important things. So there are different ways of getting organized. And if the reader can have a number of possibilities in their own mind about how to get organized, then you can choose the best one or the most appropriate one for the questioner. So people often want to know how to read cards. And I think what you do is you learn or you find out about various stuff, various activities, habits, ways of dealing with situations. And then you let the cards that come up in a reading determine the sort of information you pass on to that questioner. So there isn't a card that means do a SWOT analysis, or there isn't a card that means take a night school class and learn to code websites. Right, there isn't a card for that, but cards can point to or point out the need for study, or the benefits that will come from studying a subject. Another card can show a logical and methodical approach, the value of logic and taking a methodical approach, and maybe an interest in technology. So the reader can put these three factors together and come up with what you do is you go back to school, learn how to code, and then make websites. Right? That's those three cards point you in that direction. But with a different question and questioner, the combination of cards might indicate what you do is you find out about what sort of foods to eat. Right? You organize a weekly menu and you put it on a phone so you don't have to think about it. And it's the same kind of thing. Study, organization and method and logic and technology. It's a different use of those three types of cards. But depending on the question and the questioner, you would maybe suggest websites or find out, maybe it's a medical situation the person's involved in and they need to change their diet. So don't just do nothing, but use those three types of behavior and come up with a solution. So how do you learn the tarot? How do you learn to read the tarot? I think what you do is follow what is of interest to you at that time, and you're going to be able to make use of it later. And I think I mentioned this before, I think, in a video. So I've been watching this video on YouTube about Bach's method of composition. And it was pointed out, or a biographer pointed out, that when Bach, normally when you're writing a fugue, there's a bass line or a melody line, and then you write other notes that relate to the basic melody. But Bach didn't do just one note, one instrument. He would come up with 5 or 6 different instruments, and he would work with them all at the same time. And the biographer said that for Bach, every instrument was equally well informed about the theme of the fugue. And I immediately thought, every card in a Celtic cross is equally well informed about the answer, which was interesting for me. It's a different way for me to then look at a Celtic cross, because with a Celtic cross, people can want to know what's the most important card. But the thing is, or the point is, I think every card is equally well informed about what to do, and every card is equally important when you're coming up with what the answer is. So if we go back to the example spread, this reversed tower, the King of Swords and the 8 of Wands. If the question, let's say the question is a woman and she wants to know, okay, how am I going to get on better with my son? And the answer is going to be, okay, be like the King of Swords. So be an authority figure for your child. And this is going to give the child a sense of stability. So he'll act better and he'll be better organized, let's say. So you're not taking the King of Swords and saying you have to be tough and you have to be threatening and because you've got a sword in your hand. Though that being tough and being threatening can be meanings of the card, but you're giving an answer that relates to the King of Swords. Then maybe the person wants to know, okay, that's good for my son, but how am I going to deal with my boss? And the answer is, again, is be the King of Swords. But you can't be an authority figure for your boss because he's already the authority figure. He's the one in charge. So instead, be some other side of or other aspect of the King of Swords. So maybe what you do is with the boss, be patient with him and in his presence. Be quiet as well, because the King of Swords looks, quiet and patient and ready to be decisive because he's got the sword. So if you act like that with your boss, that's the best type of behavior for him at the moment, or for getting on well with your boss at the time, at this particular time. It's more appropriate to be steady and dependable and not threatening when dealing with the boss. Okay, I'm thinking this is going to be a long video, and I try to make it short, but I saw this TV show years ago, and there was it was like a talk show, and there was a resident psychologist, and a woman in the audience wanted to know what to do. And the psychologist said, okay, you have to confront your boss, take him on. And you could tell from by looking at the woman that she couldn't do it, right? If she didn't want to do it, she couldn't do it. And if the boss had yelled back at her, she would have folded, right? So the advice was theoretically good, because sometimes you have to take people on, but it didn't take account of the actual person who would be taking the action. So it was bad advice. So this has to do with you as a reader. When you think later of what you could have said in the reading, what you're thinking right now or later is only theoretically good advice, or it's advice that you're coming up with in a vacuum, or the person isn't there anymore. So with the sample spread about the person asking how to deal with the boss, you could think later, I should have told her to be more aggressive with him. But suggesting that she act in a firm and patient way was a better suggestion in itself, in part because of the upset and disruption shown by the Tower reverse, which is in the past. If you'd found the sun upright in the past, that would have shown confidence and skill. So the person could have proceeded maybe with more assertiveness when dealing with the boss, because they would have a greater a belief in their own ability. But you were dealing with the Tower reversed, or the questioner was dealing with the Tower reversed. So be firm is better than be confrontational in this instance. Because we have to remember, with readings, we do them at the time, right? And the ideas we have when we're doing the reading are part of what's going on. And maybe they take their lead, the kind of thoughts that you have, maybe take their lead from the atmosphere created by the questioner. So just talk during the reading and listen to what you're saying. So thinking about the spread later, we could have told the woman to confront the boss and make demands, right? Because she's the King of Swords. But suggesting that she be solid about what she's like and clear and ready to act would have been or would be more appropriate, because that's behaving along the lines of the King of Swords. But it's also something that the questioner could handle and carry out. So if you're later, after the reading, you're going over what you said in the reading, and you think of more that you could have said or think you should have said, this is okay. This analysis is okay. But think that when you're reliving the reading, think of it as preparing for the future, so that the next time that card comes up, or the next time you're answering that type of question, you have more knowledge to draw on, or you've got a larger database of information, we might say. So look at your analysis of what has happened as preparing for the future, and that'll work, instead of trying to rewrite the past or changing the past in some way to conform to your present state of mind. Because I think when we're critical of our own ability, it's not so much that the reading wasn't good or that you did a bad job. It's that you're looking in the wrong direction. So forward is the way to go. That was it. Last week I mentioned about the tarot book, and some people have sent me questions, and thank you very much. I'm late with the site, but it'll be up and running next week. So I'll give you the URL then in the next video. So ideally next Sunday. So until then, have a good week, and we'll see you again. Okay? Bye-bye.